Namaste.
Well, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, we're very happy to have Luang Por Viradhammo here with us this morning or this evening, wherever that you are. Let us all now put our palms together and bow 3 times to Luang Por. First bow. Second bow. Third bow.
So before we head off to meditation land, we wanted to dedicate this session to a very good friend of mine who died recently, Banita, and she's from Auckland. She's Sri Lankan background. And the reason we're doing this session earlier is because her funeral is at 8 my time, and I'm one of the participants in the ceremony. But Banita was a really bodhisattva character. She died at age 93. She was a public health doctor, and as a solo mother, raised 4 kids who are really well-accomplished, beautiful beings in the world now with their own families. And she was this one of the central figures of the Auckland Theravada Buddhist Association, which I was a part of for 10 years, from 85 to 95. And she just had so many good qualities of moral integrity and generosity and determination, and she loved meditation. So she's probably like the great matriarch of Buddhism in Theravada, Auckland Theravada Buddhism. And I was very close to her, very close to the family. So felt right to dedicate today's meditation to her well-being as we do. Yeah, one of the things I remember, they showed me a picture when the South African rugby team did a tour in New Zealand before the fall of the apartheid regime. She and her kids went to demonstrations against the Springbok tour and against apartheid in South Africa, and they've got it. And Banita, I always know Banita in a sari. She was always in a sari. They were very elegant in that way. And so here was a picture of her with a motorcycle helmet on, ready for action. It's kind of a lovely image of many sides of this good person. So anyways, Banita Bita, this session is a bit shorter, is that correct? Like 20 minutes meditation, did you suggest?
That's
okay,
right.
We'll try that. Okay. If I call you Banita, no problem. All right, let's meditate for 20 minutes. So here we go. Establish presence in wherever you are. So just feel your body sitting here. And notice as soon as you focus and just notice the general feeling of a body sitting in a room, you touch the silence of awareness. Notice that silence by being aware of the body. Listen to sound. Even if it's very quiet, just listen. Allow listening to be receptive. Let the sounds come to you. And notice the silence of awareness. So this is what we're trying to remember in meditation, the silent witnessing, consciousness, awareness, and trusting in that. It's hard to do because we get caught up in thinking, So not to get rid of thought, try to notice thought as an object. So listen to sound. So now this is awareness with sound. Feel your hands. Awareness with bodily sensation. Awareness with your hands. Listen to sound. Notice the silence of awareness. Feel your hands. Notice the silence of awareness. Listen to sound. Perceive sound as in awareness. Feel your hands. Perceive feeling of the hands in awareness. So the awareness is like conscious space. Sounds come and go. Bodily feelings come and go. Thoughts come and go. So try to establish that open, spacious, receptive quality of knowing the way things are. So meditation isn't really about the object of meditation. It's more the awareness. And the object just helps. So I say awareness with the body. So feel your face. Feel the mouth. Let the feelings in the mouth become conscious. So it's not a hard focus. It's not a hard concentration. It's just feelings in the mouth. Awareness with that. Feel the ears. Let that become conscious. The nose. The feelings in the nose become conscious. In awareness. The eyes. Let that become conscious, the feelings in the eyes. In awareness. Feel the temples, top of the head. Feel the whole head now as an object in awareness. Listen to sound. Sound is in awareness. Feel the head. The head is in awareness. Feel the shoulders, arms, torso, weight of the body on the seat. Feel the legs. From your feet to your head, feel the whole body as sensations, temperature, heat, pressure, pain, in awareness. So the body is known in awareness. Listen to sound. Feel the body. Both are in awareness. Notice the changing nature of sound. Notice the changing nature of the body, sensations. Notice the unchanging nature of awareness. Be that awareness. So be awareness, knowing change, coming and going. Obviously, the thinking mind likes to sort of take over the bandwidth of consciousness, but every now and then something interrupts the thinking mind, pain, sound. So in that moment, that's the moment of knowing. What's very simple to do is just return to sound. I just listen and hear the sound of silence, the silence of awareness, rather than just kind of trying to focus and get rid of thought, which is a common thing we do. Just go to another sense space, just listen. And then when you listen, there's the silence of awareness. And proceed from there. It takes tremendous patience to meditate.
Thank you, Luang
There's an
Por.
option on Zoom, original sound for musicians, and that was off. So my bell didn't work. Anyway, here we are. Shanzine, you want to do the honors?
Thank you, Luang Por. We would now like to request for the Dhamma. Brahmacaloka Dipati Sambati Katanjaliyan Diwarangaya Jada Santi Dasata Parajaka Jadika Ese tu Dhammang Anukampi Mampaja.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Hello to everyone, wherever you are. I'm in Ontario. What's new in the monastery? I think I saw some bear scat, so I'm looking for a bear. Usually we have a really good crop of apples this year. We have a lot of apple trees that were planted in previous farming communities around here. And the bears love apples, and so do the deer. So it's very exciting to see a bear. It's pretty rare. So that's exciting. And the building project is going slowly but beautifully. So the workmanship continues to be inspiring, but that'll be finished maybe maybe for a Katina next year, next October. And I have a new loom. I just finished a new rug, which was quite a joy. Came out pretty well. And just thinking about weaving, there's something, making furnitures, I find much more, not violent, but there is a lot of noise and strength in making furniture. But the weaving I found, once I had the warp up, just the throwing of the shuttle and the beating of the warp and so on of the weft, very, very meditative. And I was thinking about all the different ways that Watpa we'd be encouraged to develop mindfulness. And it wasn't just sitting meditation, although we did a lot of sitting meditation. It was encouraged. There's obviously walking meditation. And I was just talking to a friend who has a lot of difficulty staying awake during sitting meditation. And in the forest tradition, Ajahn Chah would do a lot of walking meditation. I always did. Most of the monastic communities actually really, really like their walking path. It's one of the good friends of a monk as he's doing diligent solitude practice. So that's a good thing to keep in mind, that sometimes people might think that meditation is about refinement, but that's a particular quality of sense experience, whereas awareness itself is not a quality of sense experience. It knows qualities of sense experience. And once you get that difference, then even if a meditation period seems a bit more coarse, that doesn't really matter. It's the sustaining of awareness that really matters. So I was thinking, what else is kind of crocheting is very meditative. Um, in our tradition, the monks usually crochet their own bowl covers, and the bowls are, like little basketballs, half basketballs, and it's actually quite difficult to get that form You know, to crochet something like a square is easy. So sometimes the samaneras in Wapapong, they're kind of young kids, really 12 years old. They're really restless, so they'd be walking back and forth, um, doing walking meditation and crocheting, multitasking, which was quite cute. uh, Knitting, I've never done knitting. Maybe I'll try. Knitting could be very kind of meditative because these simple crafts that we can do, they keep us in the present moment, but they're not so complicated that they take up all our mental space. So something which you can do in a very simple way and do for long periods of time, like half an hour or an hour, you really see what the habits of mind are, where the mind is going to today, like if it's going to worry or resentment or it's just fantasizing over something. That's very, very helpful. And then you can use the knitting, not like some people want to just like focus and not think, but that's very stressful actually. It's not peaceful. You actually just use the simple craft, and then within the craft, you have something that keeps grounding you and breaking up the patterns of self-making, I-making, the whole thinking apparatus that we get kind of caught up into. So I've always appreciated that part of the forest tradition that we were encouraged. Um, I remember a fellow called Ajahn Pabagaro, who's now Joseph. He was a really good craftsman and he was very good at making bowl stands. And he taught me how to make a bowl stand. They're made out of bamboo, and that was really nice. That was like the first kind of crafty thing I did as a monk. And then we'd get these branches of a bush that had uh, good qualities for the teeth, not neem, but something else. And we'd have a stick of wood of maybe like 4 inches long, 5 inches long, and it would be maybe like 2 inches and 2.5 2 inches in diameter. And we'd beat one end and make a kind of a mushroom shape, and then we'd split it down maybe in 12 sections, and then we'd shave one end and make it sharp, and we call it a toothwood. So with the brushy end, you brush your teeth, and on the pointy end, you get the rest of the stuff out, or vice versa, whatever sequence you like to do. But also these toothwoods were objects of when we took when we asked for dependence on our teacher, which we do every year. Um, we would gather in front of Ajahn Chah or Ajahn Sumedho, whoever, and we would offer candles, incense, and flowers, and we'd always have these toothwoods that we'd made, and everyone would maybe throw in some toothwoods. And making toothwoods is very, very simple. It doesn't require a PhD in woodworking or anything, but just that simple craft of like taking a knife, carving a piece of wood again and again and again. There was a lot of that at Wapapol, and I sort of enjoy that part of developing mindfulness around the ordinary, um, and taking something that requires a minimal amount of attention, and then really focusing actually what is the mind doing. So you create a good product, but more than that, you get a sense of the habits of mind, what they're doing, and get a sense of them as an object rather than be the subject of them. So I'm sure all of you have different ways that you can. I don't know if chopping onions is the same. I can't remember the last time I chopped an onion. That might be a bit more tear reducing or something. Gardening. My mom really, really loved gardening, and like gardening, it kind of gets done when it gets done. But you could see from my mother, it was very calming, very, very calming, very, very good for her heart, for her mind. Canoeing. I all recommend canoeing. Canoeing's interesting if it's not too windy. Canoeing, you just have to dip the paddle in and you'll get there eventually. But you're not going to get there very quick. So, if you're going across the length of a lake, 6 kilometers long, our lake, it's going to take you an hour and a half. You're not going to get there much faster. And there's just something about plonk, plonk, plonk. So you have the beauty of your body being used in a very healthy way. You have the environment, but you see what your mind is doing with that. And so much of our meditation, the object of meditation really is the mind. We want to understand the mind, not just be a victim to its different kinds of moods and habits and such like. But not just get rid of things, it does require a kind of I was talking with someone else the other day and think, well, what keeps you in the game of meditation? Why do we put a lot of hours into this stuff, right? Why do it? Why not watch Netflix or I don't know, play pool or whatever you want to play? Well, I think it's the curiosity for me. I'm really curious about, well, how does the mind work? And why do I suffer? Obviously, that's important. And then what is the silence of the mind? And for me, finally, what is this very interesting statement? There is the unconditioned, the uncreated, the unoriginated, the unformed, the harbor, peace. That language, obviously, as I often talk about, is very important. So then thinking about Banita, um, she was really a bodhisattva kind of being, just so generous and so good and so hardworking in many ways. But death comes, even to bodhisattvas, even to good people, even to people who've done tremendous good works. And so the question for us, all of us, is that, like a lot of her, um, when I went to New Zealand between 1985 and 1995, the Auckland group. I went there every month, and they're a lovely group of mostly Sri Lankans, but also some Kiwis and others, Malaysians, who were trying to create a city vihara and doing kids classes and teaching and organizing retreats as these groups do. And they had a lovely sense of camaraderie and a communal commitment to um, creating a place which had much goodness in it. Now all these people are like they're Benita's age or a bit younger, and so most of them say, "Well, now we're in the departure lounge, and we're all going to be in the, well, I'm probably in the departure lounge already. It's coming, folks. We're going to be there too. So the good works are obviously very, very important because they give the sense, they give the heart a sense of, yeah, I did something meaningful. I took care of my kids, or I tried to practice a good vocation, or I tried to live an honest life in whatever ways I could. So that's not insignificant. That is significant. But still, there is the question of dying, the body dying. And so then as Buddhists, we often talk about rebirth. We like to talk about that. And of course, we don't know. We like to talk about it. We talk about it like we know what we think it's true, but do we really know? What's the difference between believing and actually knowing? And not to dismiss the the uh, the philosophical um, views that we have about rebirth of consciousness, I've always been very cautious not to just hang on to those beliefs because I don't know. I like the sense of not knowing because that seems to me more in tune with actually what's going on in my own mind. There's a friend at lunch the other day, and he said that it was one one of our lay stewards had his birthday, and this other person asked him, "What's an appropriate wish for a monk on a monk's birthday?" He said, because last time I told the monk many happy returns, and the monk didn't look very happy because it seems that our job description is not to return. So you get this kind of language in Buddhism, which is actually quite humorous, like, um, I really hope I get to go to rebirth, right? So like, what would you like? Oh, I don't know, Lexus? That'd be nice, or something. So that's that kind of being reborn in the perfect condor, whatever you want. by having the perfect family, perfect partner. There's that kind of very materialistic idea. Then the other idea you get is never again. I don't want to go through this again. No way. Which is very nihilistic, actually. You think about it. No, no, I just don't want to face being a teenager again. I cannot stand the idea of being in high school again. So the mind carries on that way, which is actually nihilism, isn't it? I just want to self-destruct. I don't want to go through this again. And that doesn't sound very inspiring to me. So those are cultural things that that we kind of throw around, either seriously or semi-seriously, around the ideas of rebirth. But rebirth is something that certainly some psychics seem to be able to um, see or predict. And certainly from the text, the Buddha has those powers. Not me. No way, Jose, kind of thing. I don't know. But what I can know is like that this other suggestion that Buddha makes is that there is the uncreated, the unoriginated, that which is not bound by time. Now that I can investigate. I can't investigate rebirth. I can either believe or disbelieve or quasi-believe or be agnostic or whatever you want. Um, and I can maybe just, hedge my bets and live a good life just in case it happens, and not get reborn in a hell realm because I robbed a bank. So that's probably a good idea. But more significantly to me, more interesting to me is, well, I'm going to die, or this body's going to die, and what happens to awareness? What happens to consciousness? And I think any contemplative person has asked that, right? And you don't really have an answer to it, but you can take uh, these ideas. There's the uncreated, the unconditioned, the unborn, the timeless. You can take those ideas and work with them in the present moment as a kind of reflective um, exercise. And I always do that, like encourage people, listen to sound, feel the body. Okay? So you come to hopefully the silence of awareness. That's important. If you're in thought, then these kinds of seemingly high questions, what is the unconditioned, whatever, they can never be approached because thought is the condition, right? So much encouragement around any spiritual practice, Buddhist practice, is to try to touch the silence of the mind, but not by getting rid of thought. Because a lot of us would just like to annihilate thinking because it'd be such a nuisance, to say the least, such a burden. So, but that doesn't, that doesn't work because that's violent. It's a vibhava tanha. So if you take like simple exercises like listening and then touch the silence. Sound is there, but there's also the silence of knowing, the silence of listening. And when you touch that in more and more continual ways, not by getting rid of thought, I keep emphasizing that. No, not by getting rid of thought, by seeing the end of a thought, by seeing the space between thoughts, by thinking a thought and stopping. I am going to die. And then there's the silence afterwards. Who said that? And there's the silence afterwards. So touching the silence to me seems to be very important for entering into the deeper, shall we say, spiritual implications of the Buddha's enlightenment. And again, to me, it seems the Buddha taught, my take on it, especially being a bhikkhu, is that my ordination is for the realization of the unconditioned, not to get a really good rebirth. That's not why I ordained. Like, okay, I'm gonna keep these precepts so I, get to the place I really want to be. No, it's for the realization of the unconditioned. So that's my duty, I suppose. Huh? Not quite my job description, but my duty is to realize that, and that's very nice, very nice. And so all the the kind of, when people ask about rebirth and so on and so forth, I figure it'll take care of itself. You know, you live a good life, it'll take care of itself, whatever way that works. But now let's focus on what's going to happen when I die. What, you know, people ask me, occasionally someone comes to me has a relative who is in palliative care or whatever, and then the question comes, how do you die? But, you know, how do you do that? How do you do dying? You know, I know how to do living. How do I do dying? Well, if your contemplation is about, well, what doesn't change, rather than about what changes. So what changes are emotions, bodily feelings, etc., thoughts. But if you listen to the silence by listening, just listening, so I can hear crickets, I can hear a bit of air conditioning, but I'm not going to those now. I'm not going to the objects of sound. I'm just abiding in a kind of receptive listening, and there's a silence. They're not so far away. Now I try to get in tune with that more and more. So I'm weaving, and my mind starts to think about color or something. Okay, that's fine. I've organized that. Then it starts to think about the future, and then, oh, thought is like this. And so I stop and I hold the shuttle and I think, oh, there's the silence again. So you keep in this kind of contemplative practice, you keep returning to the silence, not trying to get it as an achievement. This is, I think, a mistake we make in meditation where, okay, I'm going to watch my breath so that my mind doesn't think. That might happen. But then as soon as you don't watch your breath, the mind just starts flowing in its habits again. This is different. This is in the ordinariness of life sense experience. You start to just notice something, i.e., the silence of awareness. Okay? So our attention is always out into fixing things or organizing things or judging things or caught up in our own mental attitudes. And so that's the mind going out, as I always said. So the mind going outside is suffering. Now we want to come back to just knowing the mind as the mind. And that is crickets. That's the sound of crickets. The mind is out there. But if I just listen, crickets don't go away. But the silence, and that I can always touch. This is interesting, isn't it? It's like it's never not there. Let's put it that way. It's never not there. Presence is never not there. It's always there. So our minds, if we are training for dying, if you want to put it that way, and we're going to die, by the way, so might as well do a little bit of practice beforehand. If we then begin to touch that which seems to be unchanging, begin to incline towards that, become curious about that, experiment with it, isn't it true that will become more a kind of reality? Not that it's not a reality, but we will touch it more and more. When I ask you, make conscious the feeling in your mouth. Now, the feeling in your mouth is always there. You're just not conscious of it. And then I just direct your attention to it. And then, oh yeah, there's the teeth. And if you hold your attention there, oh, there's the lips, there's the tongue. Well, that's quite alive in there, right? So in the same way, you make conscious silence. It's not getting rid of thought. You make conscious the silence, which is behind sense experience, behind thought, behind emotions. And you start to just incline towards that in simple exercises. And the more you do it, the more you become familiar with it. And that is something to me which is terribly interesting. Now, I've spent a lot of time as a monk trying to get rid of thought. And that was a misunderstanding, is that if I get rid of thinking, then I'll touch the silence. But it can't be violent. It can't be me just forcing something. So then the forest tradition, Ajahn Chah, constantly encouraging us, this takes a little patience. So the mind runs away for 5-10 minutes, and then you hear the sound of a car, and there's that moment of awakening, and then touching the silence of the mind, and then obviously joining these up. And then the inquiry becomes more doable, not a very good word, doable, but more doable in the sense that because now the gaps of silence are more apparent, then you start to ask your question, well, does awareness change? Does consciousness change? And that even takes you into a deeper silence. Because when I witness witnessing, when I look at awareness, looking at awareness, and I ask that question, what's unchanging? There's just the silence of consciousness. There's no person. There's no me saying it's not changing. There's just the ineffable silence of the mind. And that's very restful. It's very um, um, attractive in many ways, but not in terms of sense experience. Now, I find doing, I hope you're following me here, but I find doing this kind of silent exercise sometimes leaves me kind of in a headspace. So developing the heart chakra for me has been very, very important. Something, I don't know what it is, something about the silence of awareness and the openness of a heart is a perfect balance for me. Resting in the heart rather than the head, resting with this energy in the silence of awareness. That seems to be, I find, a kind of perfection there. And in that balance, then there's no desire. There's no desire because there's balance. Don't need anything. So a lot of our meditation, I would say, becomes, I think a lot of people strategize. You know, they have this kind of little plan of how they're going to meditate or make the mind quiet or deal with this or deal with that. So there's a lot of programming and strategizing and trying to fix and trying to become, as opposed to trusting in the silence and trusting in an open heart. And those of you who have been listening to Luang Por Sumedho's talks of late, you know how strongly now he's just saying, just trust in this knowing, trust in awareness. It's like this, really trust in that. But what we'll see is that rather than trusting in awareness, we trust in thought, a worrisome thought, a self-disparaging thought, a thought about buying something, a thought about that I shouldn't buy something, etc., etc. So we really, really trust in thought. Now, getting rid of thought's not going to be the solution. It's seeing the end of thought, seeing thought as an object rather than being the subject, and getting to those little gaps of the mind. So when death comes, as the body starts to break down, as it already is doing for many of us, so I tried to lift some heavy weights because I'm trying to flatten this rug. It's right in front of me. And I shouldn't lift those heavy weights. My knees are not happy today. Not a good idea. Okay, so I could do that 20 years ago. And Viradhammo, come on, you're an old man. Stop doing that. But that's the way of old age, isn't it? So the knees are hurting, and they'll be fine, or they won't be fine, and so on. And that's just the way of the degeneration of the body. That's what happens, right? And if my refuge is in the body, boy, am I in trouble. Whew, I am really in trouble. It's not a good idea at all. You notice it more and more. But if my refuge is in awareness, I can feel my knees and think, well, that was stupid. And I can correct my behavior and try to be a bit more reasonable in what I do. And then I can see maybe, oh, yeah, so this is the karmic result of lifting something heavy. But all the time, the refuge is knowing, is awareness. Okay, there's pain, and that happens. And when the body breaks down and dying, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what that feels like. You know, that the senses are just going down, and I mean that must be super powerful and super strong. But awareness should, this all arises and ceases in awareness. Fear, say, if one has fear of sickness or fear of death or whatever, Fear is an object that arises and ceases in awareness. Fear for one's loved ones, for their pain, that arises and ceases in awareness. So awareness is this open-hearted awareness, I would say, and maybe to add that, is the way we actually just constantly adapt to these things in a very, very wholesome way, in a very good way. And if we're present to someone's dying, and we will be, and I've been present to many friends dying, and then what do we do? We can't fix that, but what can we do? What can we do for a person that's dying? Well, we can be present to that. We can be open-hearted to that. It's okay. This is all right. This is nature, rather than think it shouldn't be this way. So the more we take refuge in awareness, rather than the way we want things to be a certain way, the more available we are to appropriate responses to someone dying, someone sick, someone with illness, whatever it might be. In Thailand, when they get, I'm talking this way because I have to say some words at this funeral. So in Thailand, they often begin a monk will begin a Dhamma talk around a funeral by saying, we are brothers and sisters in old age, sickness, and death. Well, it's true, isn't it? Well, it's a very beautiful way to put it. And it's not morbid. It's not morbid per se. It just is. It's just the way it is. We are brothers and sisters in old age, sickness, and death. And when someone does die close to us, it can really rip our hearts apart. It'll be very, very, very painful. But that pain in the heart is actually love, isn't it? I would say it's a good pain in the sense that it's touching that space, which is very, very important. And if we don't get lost into it in self-pity or I should have done more and all that kind of thinking stuff that we do around the pain of the heart, and we just stay with it, I would suggest it really opens the heart in very, very profound ways. I had one experience where there was a family in Auckland many, many years ago, and they had a 5-year-old daughter that died of leukemia. And it was so painful just to be with them, watch it. And yet the parents came out of it really beautiful beings because they had just stayed with the heart, stayed with the pain. They really loved the child, did everything they could. And although one never forgets that loss, you could see that they had gone through that difficult experience and come out of it really as very profound beings, from not that they weren't beforehand, but very, very profound. And sometimes when someone does get ill or has a terminal disease or whatever, then we quite up because we don't want that. We think a lot. But when we come to the heart and awareness, we say, yeah, but life is like this. There is loss, there is pain, and who am I to be free of that? Who is my family to be free of that? When you come to the heart, then the demand that it be different falls away, and then we are really, really available to help in whatever we can. So I'm going on and on now here, so maybe I'll stop there, and hopefully that wasn't too negative. Hopefully it's helpful, but maybe I think Banita, Beta, there were some questions. So I think you could read them out.
Thank you, Luang Por. Andamaya o vadagata sadhu karang kadamase sadhu 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 anumodhami.
Luang Por, it was really very beautiful and very timely reflection on the time, the limited time that we have, and the urgency, samvega, to practice. So Luang Por, there is a question from someone here in this room. I think this is in relation to meditation. This person is asking, do you focus on the heartbeat or the heart chakra, the heart area?
Just the center of the chest.
Okay.
I like when I started meditation, I was basically dead from the neck down. I was just a mass of thinking. I was clever, sure. And then I tell the story often. I had the intuition, no, you got to be aware here. Because I guess every now and then it would open, I suppose. I can't remember so long ago. But I started to rub tiger balm on here just to become more conscious of the center of my chest. I'd rub a lot on, but that wasn't really the idea. It just got too hot. But then I just tried to bring my attention down from my head, just physically down, and feel hara or chet, center of the chest. And just like I say, make conscious the feelings in the mouth. That's what I was doing. Make conscious the feelings of the center of the chest. Make conscious the feelings of the hara. So I found those two had a lot of information about attachment and fear and love and things like that. So I realized that there is an education there. There is a learning there, which isn't cerebral, which is visceral, that is intuitive and informs in a way which the cerebral part of my being wasn't really touching. So when I talk about, I just the center of the chest. So I would do things like breathing in, welcoming, breathing out, letting go. Or breathing in, Luang Por Sumedo, breathing out, may you be well. Breathing in, Mom, breathing out, may you be well. Breathing in, maybe 3 people, just in and out here. Me, may I be well, may I be free. So just a lot of like breath work, did a lot of breath work, really opening the chest and then visualizing or naming. Because the naming was very good for me because as soon as I name someone who I'm close to, the feeling of love is very quick, right? So I have so much gratitude for Luang Por Sumedo and Luang Por. So right away there's that feeling of goodness and metta, and then may you be well. And just kind of like the metta practices that were coming from the Visuddhimagga, I never used those. I found them, I don't know, they were too, I don't know what it was, but I wasn't so attracted to them. I was more attracted just a simple entry into the heart through more simple language. So I might do that, like just 1 person, 2 people, 3 people for half an hour or an hour, and just stimulating that area and those attitudes of mind. And then to myself, that kind of thing. Yeah, so these things are not like dramatic, I found. It's not like you just all of a sudden you say a little mantra and boing, it goes over. It's not quite like that. It's more like a persuasion of consciousness and persuading consciousness to perceive in a certain way or enter into life in a certain way. And it's not like you're trying to get some meditative experience out of it, because that would be greedy. It's just coming to a different way of relating to life. And there was another question, was there, right?
Yes, Luang Por. So we'd like to invite everyone here who's got a question to click on the raise hand button, and we'll invite you to unmute. But before that, there are 2 typewritten questions. Luang Por, the first question is, you talked a lot about trusting in awareness. What if, when being in awareness is painful? Can Luang Por please speak about that?
Well, let's say, if I were to insult a person now, and I went back to my kuti, like let's say I lose the plot, I insult the person and call them a turkey. We have wild turkeys here, by the way, okay? You turkey, okay. When I go back to my cushion, it's going to be really painful. I'm going to feel pretty bad about losing the plot. And that pretty bad feeling is going to then run off into thinking. And that thinking will be an avoidance of the pain for me. Not that I've called anyone a turkey lately, but So if, however, I'm quite mindful and I'm sitting on my cushion and then the result, oh, that was unkind or that was unfair, starts to come up in my heart, then I will feel it here very strongly. And it'll be very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable. But if I stay with that discomfort, then it will open the heart actually. Whereas if I go to thought, I will usually then go to self-disparagement, which will be more aversion. This isn't the recent problem I've had. It's something I learned some time ago. But then I'd go into thought, and then the thinking process would be actually more averse. It shouldn't be like that. Da, 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 da. So actually going back to the pain of the heart is certainly painful. This is one type of example. But staying with that pain is actually an honest reflection of what happened. No, this is a result, Viradhammo. This is a result when you lose right speech and you hurt someone. And then that pain actually would take me to a deeper compassion. And then I would ask for forgiveness and so on and so forth. So there's that kind of pain. There's the pain of memory, like someone might have hurt you, like maybe that person then has the memory of being hurt by me, and then they come up, and then that is kind of like maybe feeling of betrayal, or that's very strong, or unfairness. And those are very, very painful feelings. So then the mind runs into thought again. I'm never going to talk with them again. I'm not going to forgive them. I don't care. And may they drop dead. Oh, I shouldn't think like that. I'm a Buddhist and that's a monk. Oh dear, I'm terrible. I'm terrible. That's all just thinking, you know. And actually going to the feeling of being betrayed or being hurt is painful. Undoubtedly, it's painful. But where does it take you? What happens if you stay with it? I find then you become you see that mindfulness can take anything. It can take these things, and you get more and more confidence in awareness, and then from that you can say something. Say that was wrong. You shouldn't have done that. You can say something. You don't have to be passive. Um, if you have a memory of loss, memory is a lot. There's a lot of pain in that. And you stay with it, then I found that it runs its course. I don't get lost in the thinking mind. Um, if it's physical pain, if it's chronic pain, if you have chronic Lyme disease or fibromyalgia or things like that, then I would say you go to the experts. You go to the pain experts, people, because there's a lot of very good literature now on the psychology of chronic pain. Very, very good, which fits in with Buddhist ideas, but there's a certain um, insight. Like I just met someone who is doing some work with chronic Lyme's disease, which is very, very painful, but there's a whole psychological component to the the physical pain, which is very, very subtle and can be worked on. So if it's like physical pain and it's chronic, then I say there's lots of good things that you search around you can deal with. So it kind of depends on the type of pain. But then if you take it back to the Four Noble Truths, it's always about craving, not about the pain. So the emotional pain or the physical pain is something that is unpleasant. The Vedana is unpleasant, Dukkha Vedana. And then the desire comes up, I don't want this. Naturally, I don't want this. So biologically, I'm conditioned to get away from it, do the best I can. But a lot of pain is not escapable. So then you work with the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering, there is pain. What is the problem here? It's the not wanting. That's the problem. That's where you diagnose it. So it might be an emotional pain, it might be physical pain, but that's always the bottom line, is to go to the tanha, the craving. I mean, the bottom line is to go to the doctor or get out of there or whatever, sure. Like, you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to be some kind of masochistic hero or heroine, but rather if it's there, then okay, this is a chance to use the Four Noble Truths, especially attachment to the craving to get rid of, not wanting, and seeing where that is. What's the difference between pain and not wanting the pain? And if you can differentiate that, then you say, oh, then you have a moral pain is like this, and you have metta for the pain. You have a sense of kindness for the pain rather than this pushing away pain. And it can be very complicated. It can be very kind of insidious and habitual. So it requires a kind of inquiry into the nature of the pain.
Thank you for the answer, Luang Por. The second question is about right intention. The person is asking, how can one ensure that one's intention is right at all times? And how can one learn to grow to make wise intention that's beneficial for self and others? Thank you, Luang Por.
Well, you probably can't do it all the time, so give that up and do the best you can. So be careful of perfection and be careful of idealism. Be careful of that. Do the best you can, but then see what's the result of those intentions. That's usually the way. So if the result of something that you do gives a negative sour result, then you have to question why. So if you're very clear of your intentions, let's say I have a discussion with someone and they say to me later, you said something very hurtful to me. Well, I can go, if I'm really clear in my intentions, then I can say, well, did I have the intention to hurt them? Was that my intention in discussion? Well, actually, no. Okay, I could be more careful. Maybe I was a bit blunt, but I really had no intention to hurt them. So that helps. That really, really helps because sometimes you can be intimidated by other people's sensitivity. You can be respectful of their sensitivity, but the more clear I am about why I say and do what I do, the more I'm okay when life turns around and bites me or goes pear-shaped or it goes a way which I didn't expect. I didn't really expect that, but my intention wasn't to get that result. So clarity of intention helps a lot with doubt. Um, and can you always be clear with your intentions? Probably not. You do your best, right? Sometimes, we're heedless and so on. So there's no guarantee. But the more you practice knowing the mood of the mind, this is really, I think, it's most important is when you know the mood of the mind, you're much, much more cautious about speaking or doing when the mood of the mind is negative, obviously. If you're not really aware of the mood of the mind and you're just coming out habitually from a mood of like I suffered a lot from cynicism. I could really get into a cynical state of mind and then crack jokes from a cynical state of mind. Ha ha ha. But I wouldn't have wanted the recipient of that cynical joke. It's not very nice. And that was just such a habit, such a strong habit of being clever and so on, which comes from childhood or university or wherever. So I'd be really, I really work on don't it's don't say it. And then I'd feel the result of maybe hurting someone with wrong speech, some cruelty in the joke, and then I'd feel to go back here. So sometimes the intentions are the habits are so powerful that we just come out in ways which are not skillful. But the result will be there. The result of my cynicism was not happiness. It wasn't joy. It was always a sense of sourness. And no, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to have a world that is formulated through cynicism. So just keep working on it like that. Some things aren't so powerful. They're easy. They're easy to know, easy to address. So what you do, you're looking, what's the mood of the mind? Always, what's the mood of the mind? What's the sense of self being created? Why is there such a strong sense of self being created through this particular mood? So you get to the mood, whether it's worry or cynicism and you kind of more and more, the mood is this way. And you're not creating a sense of self around it, then the mood has less power. And then your intentions become more skillful in not following negative moods. It might just be like the way you wake up. You wake up, you've had a bad night, maybe you have sleep apnea or you've got some insomnia, you wake up in a foul mood, and then you're not aware of the foul mood and you spill the coffee and then you go for your first Zoom session and you insult someone on the other Zoom and you feel horrible because you didn't know the mood of the mind. But you wake up in the mood of the mind before you start rolling, say, what is the mood of the mind when I wake up? What is it like? Where's the sense of self? Pause, right? And be careful if it's an unskillful mood. So right from the get-go, right from when you wake up, what's the mood of the mind? What is sense of self is being created? Is it skillful? Is it unskillful? And then if it's unskillful, like it's complaining or it's worrying or it's resenting, then no, oh, that's resentment. Don't go there. Or that's worry. No need to go there. Start to undercut it by saying other things. May I be free from suffering. May all beings be free from suffering. Put other kinds of language in those habitual patterns. Okay.
Thank you. Luang Por, we have David Kelly. David Kelly would like to ask a question.
Hi, David.
Can you unmute it?
Hi, thanks Luang Por, and thank you everybody else. Lovely meditation, and I'd just like to ask, how do you get an intuition answer, not an intellectual answer, but an intuition like from the soul, from meditation?
Yeah. Well, in many ways for me, one is to wait and not let the desire to have an answer dictate the answer. So that's very important for me. If it's a if it's a serious decision that I'm considering, not just if I'm going to have another sugar in my coffee. If it's a serious kind of decision, then I find there's a restlessness of wanting some kind of an answer, some kind of intuitive answer to it. And then I find, no, wait on that. Don't just jump into so that's the desire to get away from the unknown. If it's around a question, it's the desire to have an answer, to feel secure in an answer, and not to have doubt. So if that's the case, and I can just wait, it might be around, like for me, it would be around perception of a person. There's someone in the monastery and they're having problems, and I'm trying to figure out, so what's the best approach to this person? And I want to know the best approach. Just wait, some kind of answer will come. So that I find helpful. Emptying the mind, right? And emptying the mind I find quite helpful, just like through meditation, the silence, tension in the body if it's around an issue. Sometimes I'll just do things like I'll have an A-B. I'll do an A-B. Okay, it's A or B. I'll flip a coin. Heads A, tails B. And if I don't like the answer, I'll do the other one. So I get a B. I don't like that. I'll do the A. Then at least I know what I like. I'll play around like that. Or I'll question myself a lot. Like we were having discussion around medically assisted dying, which is, are you in Canada or are you, where are you, David? Where are you living?
I'm in Ireland, actually.
In Ireland, okay. I don't know if you have this medically assisted dying, but we have this in Canada now, and it's a big topic. And so I was, just thinking through, well, what? Someone asked me, would you attend a situation where someone was now being injected to die because they had a terminal disease? Would you be there? And I said, well, why would I not be there? I'm not making the decision. I wouldn't be there because, or I would be there. So that kind of questioning is very helpful for intuition. Why would I not do this? Or why would I do this? And then, okay, I would not do this, or this is why, or this is why. So you clarify your own perspective on whatever it might be through just that kind of, ordinary questioning, rather than this is wrong, or this is, well, why is it wrong? Why do I think this is wrong? Or this is really right? Oh, why do I think it's right? And then, of course, if you can dialogue with others around that, and then let your mind be quiet from that. I met a gentleman who's a mathematician, and then he got out of the academic world and went into IT or something. But I said, so and he was doing really high maths. He said, I asked him, so how did you find solving mathematical problems? Was it a kind of meditative thing? He said, no, that was a problem. I could not let myself not think about it. I had to solve the problem. I had to be on it all the time, which almost burned him out. But he said now that he understood meditation, he was okay with not knowing for a few days. And he said he would have been a much better mathematician. Right? So I guess the main takeaway for me would be that sense of allowing yourself not to know and then waiting to see. Obviously, if there's time constraints, you just have to go for it. I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Luang Por.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. And Serene? Did Serene have her hand up? No. Okay.
Serene?
Aiden didn't.
Serene, no, she didn't have a hand up. Maybe she should have a hand up, Serene. Luang Por is calling you out.
No, don't be embarrassed. I thought I saw a yellow
There are
hand.
so many Serene. Are you referring to Serene in Singapore?
Yes.
Be brave.
Good morning. I love all your speech, so I'm writing notes actually.
Okay.
Hope to see you soon, Luang Por.
Yeah, I'll be there in December, I
Okay.
think. Is that right, William?
Yeah,
December?
that's December.
Yeah, December.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Luang Por.
Anything? Or yeah, okay. Any more questions for anyone or?
Any more questions from the floor? Anyone at all? No?
All right.
All right. So thank you, Luang Por, for a beautiful session today. And thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to do this with us. I would like to invite you to lead us to close this session by chanting the verses of sharing and aspiration, please.
Okay, you can get them up on the screen. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless through the goodness that arises from my practice and through this act of sharing. May all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Okay, everyone, nice to be with you. See you next time.
Thank you, Luang Por. So brothers and
Namaste.
sisters in the Dhamma, let us all now take leave from Luang Por by chanting Araham. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivade Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamma Namasami Supadipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you, Luang Por. See you next
See you next
time.
time. Okay. Namaste.